Dun, dun, dun. Huh, dun, 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 dun. We play with themes every week. Everyone, hey, how you doing? D here with our weekly journey into the book of Boba Fett, coming at you this week with Chapter 5, Prelude to the Mandalorian, Season 3. Joining me, as always, the man, the legend himself from Smirking Reviews. It is Rob Stone.
What's up, everybody? As we are, about to talk about Mandalorian season 2.5,
Sure, that
maybe
works.
we could call it like the bridge between, because we're not talking about Book of Boba Fett here
No,
today, folks. No, we predicted this last week that, but we did not predict how far this was going to be removed from. How far can you remove the Book of Boba Fett from this episode?
this
So much
completely,
that
apparently.
apparently you just can put a whole other series show smack dab in the middle of a season, a series of a show. They could just do that now. So like, and I think they should just try that all over the place now. Then
Yeah,
you'll be in the
just
middle of watching Better Call Saul, and then just jam an episode of Full House right in there, and then just carry on with the show after that, and don't say anything. Just be
sure.
like, oh, it's, it's important somehow to do this. In all seriousness, it's we're going to be talking about something that just shouldn't exist.
Yeah,
And yeah, my name's Rob, and welcome to Thunderdome.
yeah, it might completely go that way. You may
Two
notice we
shows
are, of course,
enter, one show leaves.
one show leaves, and we all know which show that's going to end up being. Um, Of course, if you may notice, we are missing one of our Fandalorians. Don is out. I think he's helping Boba with something. That's why he's gone this week. Stuck at a back to tank. Not entirely sure. It was sort of a cryptic message. But Don will be holding space for you, man. And we look forward to catching you next week. Let me be
He
sure to
didn't
turn
want to
off
watch
the
it.
ringer on my phone, everyone. So unprofessional.
He just didn't want to watch it. He was like, man, what? Or he watched it and was like, nope.
He knew exactly where this was going to go this week. So yeah, let's get in to brief hellos. Of course, everyone joining us live, joining us in the chat. If you do enjoy our rants and raves, as we will be going on a bit, I think, this evening. But I don't know, it's going to be an interesting discussion, I think, because there's so many pluses and odd minuses in this one. If you do enjoy our little discussion here, please be sure to hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the notifications. There's a bunch of buttons there. Hit them all. It's like, roulette. Who knows? You might win something. I'm not even sure how YouTube works anymore. But yeah, let's get into this. Like I said, really, technically, the episode is Return of the Mandalorian. But this again, our concern last week was that that Din Djarin would sort of take center stage of Boba Fett's own show. We didn't think this would actually be just a Mandalorian episode. So let me cover my brief little kind of coverage. I actually spent time and wrote this out, so I want to be sure to say it all right. So Book of Boba Fett, this episode, look, let's just say, first off, if we ever see Bryce Dallas Howard directing an episode, it's going to be good. It's going to be enjoyable. It's not going to suck. I think it's something that's fair to say, though Rob and I may have a little bit of disagreement going into some bits of this here. Personally, I found it a good episode. It was fun. Maybe spending a bit too much time with a shipbuilding that seems honestly impractical for a bounty hunter. But I like the development of Din's story. We learned a bit about Mandalore. We had challenges with the Darksaber, challenges for the Darksaber. We found a nice, powerful, understandable motivation for the Mandalorian's next journey beyond just giving a gift to Grogu that may bring him back to Mandalore, which in fact might be his birthplace. which we will get into in a little bit. Ton of Easter eggs, of course. I call them more like Mjolnirs because they just pretty much hit you over the head. You don't have to search for them. You don't have to find them. You don't notice them in the background. They throw them right in your face. But the problem is, of course, this it only really underscores the fact that I could care less about Boba's story. And all I want to do is get back to the Mandalorian. And the show with this episode pretty much seems to agree with that point. And in fact, I think the problem is that the Mandalorian has already told a better Boba Fett story without Boba Fett. So, Rob, what did you get out of this episode?
Yeah, it's such a reminder of like it's hard not to feel like sometimes when you get those other channels that want to go down these wingnut theories that aren't possibly true, but there's sometimes I see stuff like this and I go, God, man, I really hope they're not really right about some of this stuff, because it's like the sequels. There was no plan. And it feels like there's no plan here. It's so much of a non-plan that they can just drop a Mandalorian episode right into the middle of your series. And I was joking, but not really. I mean, it's not unheard of for a show to release a episode a few months prior to a season. I remember the X-Files pilot aired in like the late spring, early summer of the year it came out, and then the next episode didn't come on until like for the fall, until like months later. That's happened. But what they don't do is they don't jam an episode in from a different show, like, and still call it the same show. They would say tonight's episode of Book of Boba Fett has been preempted for a new episode of The Mandalorian. We will continue on with the Book of Boba Fett next week. That's what they would do. And instead, what we have here is an episode that reminds us of every flaw in the Book of Boba Fett. Not every, this episode was not perfect in my opinion at all, but it reminded us how bad we just like the Mandalorian. It feels like they want us to just be done with Boba Fett. Like, oh, okay, well, if we have Boba Fett in Mandalorian season 2, people are going to be like, we need a Boba Fett show. So what do? I don't know, John, just write some crap, put it together, and we'll get a few directors like Robert and we'll even help you out and have a Mandalorian episode to throw in there in the middle. So really you only have 6 episodes to worry about. You don't even have to worry about a full 7. Yes,
2 or 3, and then we'll stretch out the opener for a good couple episodes. Yeah, no,
I mean, Din Djarin is what Boba Fett's supposed to be, and I really feel like they're just pushing him to the Star Wars retirement home to be out in the background from now on. Oh, we might. We do go to Tatooine a lot, so maybe we'll still see Boba occasionally, but he'll just be doing Jabba's job, sitting in the palace after this. He won't have to get up and do anything. He might fight somebody in his own palace from now on, but we won't have to worry about him. We've got the new improved Mando because they've decided to put the old one out to pasture. And if that's the way that they're going, I mean, again, it's hard to disagree sometimes with the decision making for these shows. Not just are they making them for everyone in the family or whatever, just kind of not even caring if anybody likes it, just cranking out crap. And we're still a little too early in Disney Plus's presence on this in the streaming world for it to be already dumbing down a bunch of its entertainment.
Okay.
When people are spending, a lot on a bunch of streaming services. I don't know. Everything about this is just off and wrong, and
Well, I
it's
think
like we can't even get done with this fast enough. Like if this was just it, if we never went back, if they decided to not air the next 2 episodes, I'd basically be fine with it.
which is a sad thing to say for a character, yes, that many people have waited a long time to see, something that wasn't necessary to do. Really, I mean, they made choices to tell this story. But yeah, in some ways, it seems like they're not even really sure which story it is that they kind of want to tell. I want to jump in the chat here real quick. A few people saying hi to Don the Rich Room, jumping in, mentioning Don tapped out. Yeah, he was done with the conversation. Fangirling and loving it has the best one. Don got recruited by Boba to join the mod gang. Yes. Yes, you were right on it, fangirling. That is awesome. Silva Surfa joining us as well as always. So nice little jump. Jorge in, also not willing to trade Boba for the ripoff, waiting for a real Boba Fett story. And I know, Jorge, you've been really kind of disappointed with the way that this show has sort of treated our character. So yeah, it's an odd bit to not only take a story that away from bringing in a character that you know is going to kind of really draw focus from your main story. But yeah, literally throw in a whole prelude episode. And if there's any hint from the end of next one, we may still have more Din Djarin story at the beginning of next episode before we even get back to Boba Fett, depending on how they cut this and want to play this. So anyway, let's hold for a moment on the effect that this has had to whatever story they're going to tell with Boba Fett. I don't entirely care. I was really happy to have Din Djarin back. When he pops through that opening little bit and the theme goes, look, I'm a sucker. I was happy. And as the episode pretty much went forward, yes, was this a very exposition heavy episode? Indeed. Did they spend way too much time with Pelimato? Any time is too much time, in my opinion. Though I don't know, maybe it was just wearing me down after a while. I kind of stopped caring after a bit. Did they throw a lot of unnecessary, like just fan service at you? Sure. But damn, if I just wasn't happy to have a story that seemed to be told, that I knew where things were going, that I was excited about, oh, this character's here. Oh, I'm learning more about this. Even the technology, the stagecraft tech that they use, the volume also is what it's called. They did some beautiful stuff with that. They did some nice tracking shots. And look, I'm going to accept that the makeup isn't going to be the movie quality that I want it to be. Sometimes even, look, it's a TV show. Okay. Do I know that these are kind of fake backgrounds in the back being used? Yeah, I can see the matte lines on a lot of this stuff, and it's not all perfect. I can come in and start to accept the limitations on it if you're just going to at least do something interesting with it. And I thought at least they did that. Even the opening fight that we had, a story's being told. We're seeing how the Darksaber changes its use through the fight. It becomes heavier, it becomes harder to wield. He, in fact, injures himself with it. That's interesting. That's something being done. And certainly far outweighs, sadly, a lot of the development that we've seen. I saw a better story today than we've seen in the entire rest of the series. And I'm including last week's episode, which I think was the best of the season so far. But that's also because I was learning about this character and I care about him and the journey. And I want to see Grogu get whatever cool little chainmail things being made. But Halo World. Nice little opener there. Rob, what did you think of our bit, our fight, our introduction to Din Djarin's new little sub adventure.
Yeah, I was never a Halo fan, so I didn't go there with I had three things that I thought of though: Elysium, Interstellar, and I for some reason I kept thinking Mass Effect.
Yeah.
With like this, just the way that it's around, and you could look and you'd see the cities, like the design of the inside of the Citadel and Mass Effect. Everybody likes to have the cities all wrap around in space. It's cool. It really looks cool. I don't know how that would work, but whatever. The beginning was really solid. Again, we dropped right into our character development, and again, like nothing. You said it already. I mean, we're seeing, we're just dropped right back in, and we don't even have to ease our way back into the world. It's just comfortable shoe that you put on a million times, and it's only been 2 seasons of this, and we've been waiting more than a year for the latest episode. And you'd think that a lot of like you'd be like, oh wait, what happened? Because even I went back and watched the finale, and I was still over a year later riveted. I was sitting there riveted. I knew everything that was going to happen. And then I watched the newest episode after, and I go right into that flow. And I was just like, this is why can't we have both? Why can't we have both? Why is one show to get to have like all this great character development and a flow to it, and the other one's just like, again, it's like no plan at all. Just put that in there. Sure, great. What are the kids like? Oh, okay, I'm already off track because it just sends me back there to that place. I'm in a good
Focus,
place
Rob.
where I just talk about
Focus.
Book of Boba Fett. But the fight was really good, and the tone, it's as much as like the first half of the episode, it was a different kind of tone than the back half of the episode. It still felt like the same show.
Yes.
And we already knew that the Mandalorian had in 2 seasons has balanced a lot of different tones with the different style of the episode that they were doing. But the characters didn't change. And it's just like crafted pretty okay. I felt like there was we'll get to this in a second, but I felt like there was a lot of padding in this episode. But that beginning, like when he cuts the dude in half. Okay, people are getting hurt and busted up, and it doesn't matter that the masks look awful. I was still really into what was happening. I mean, it was cool. I mean, we were just, when he says, I can take you in warm or I can take you in cold, it didn't feel like old hat. It was like, oh, he's gonna say it. You know what I mean? Like we're still in that mode with this show, and we're 4 episodes, right? It's only been 4 of the Book of Boba Fett because I'm not counting this one.
Right. Yes.
It's already like combined. If you took out the great panning shot of Boba mowing down the bikers, right? Then Book of Boba Fett would almost completely be garbage. Like if you remove that scene that I think will look iconic later, you pretty much got mostly garbage overall. And that's not to diss the actors or the people that produce it, like to actually make it, the people that make this show, not the people signing the checks or making the decisions. Because you said, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears goes into every episode, and these people want to try and they want to do good, and they want more jobs, they want more work, they want them to everything that they do to represent themselves later. And then you look at this and you go, God, I hope I don't have to send this to my agent. You know what I mean? Like, and instead, we're sitting here again. I keep getting pulled in to this because I wanted to enjoy just the Mandalorian episode once it got started, but every scene just kept dragging me into the other. It's like, God, this would be so much better if this was just, if I didn't have to think about what came before and what's going to come after. And reasonable people are saying this, because I think I'm being reasonable. I think there's a lot of people out there with either just flat out delusional thoughts about these shows, or that's
Well,
pretty much it.
I mean, look,
But
people like what they like, and I'm going to willingly accept there's a wide range of things that are not my cup of tea that a lot of people like, and I don't mean to at least for myself, when I criticize things, I'm not trying to tell people like, if you like this and you don't see this, you suck. You have no idea what you're saying. No, I am simply trying to articulate as best I can when things bother me, why they do. In a lot of ways, I think that's ultimately my question when looking at a lot of these shows is why are these issues? Why is this boring where I'm not seeing a change of character? You know, I mean, when we talk about the difference between Boba Fett and where he's at in his life, or when Din Djarin is, as I'm seeing a lot of discussion in where the chat, and maybe it's just different approaches. I get that, but for Din, I can see that he can kick butt and then come up against the employees and be like, "Look, I don't want to fight you. There's a bunch of money. It ain't mine. You guys can go out and have it. I just want to get out of here. Is that cool? We don't have to fight. I got no problem with you." This is somebody who doesn't fight when they don't have to, and only does as far as they are pushed and needs to. To me, this is it's a great character setup. When we see this with what we've been presented with Boba Fett, there's a lot of discussions in the chat about, you know, Boba maybe being an ex-spice addict that he is dealing with, is from a line that was tossed out in season 2 of Mandalorian. And a few other things, we're trying to insert and fill in these things because the show itself hasn't told us. Whereas what we're saying here is, even if this is a little exposition heavy, they're telling us what we're going on. We understand what Din's motivation. We can see him demonstrate these things and then a change in arc with where he wants to do and where he wants to go. And for me, trying to articulate, wow, why is this better? Why am I enjoying this so much more than I am the rest of Book of Boba Fett? I am trying to articulate these questions and what it is from a story standpoint, from a development, from a character standpoint. Why, when you look at things, you go, and then you look at something else and you're like, oh, more of that.
Yep. And you know, like we understand the motivation of Boba Fett.
Sure.
You know, like we're just getting dropped into a version of him that we just don't know. What we, you know, like what most people we've talked about this is what we wanted Boba Fett to be was more like how we're getting the Mandalorian. We understand that he suffered in the Sarlacc pit and he's coming to these decisions that, you know, working for these people is going to get me killed. I've been doing this for too long, you know, and I want to see about doing things on my own. Got it. But that's it. And they're given, like, we don't get hardly anything else other than that kind of statement that, oh, I'm going to do this, that, when they basically not given us the enough of the story to show the redemption arc properly. We needed more of the Boba Fett we have, and then I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to run around in circles about this already.
Well, yeah, and we are detracted because, again, it's just, again, it's a weird thing because it's hard to separate what this story tells versus the rest of what the series is about. If this was a sneak preview, like Rob had said, boom, hey, sneak preview, guys, we're throwing this in, and there's a little bit of a tie-in for it, we could be talking about this in a different way. But when you have a 7-episode series and one episode feature is a totally different character, well, what, anybody that watches Stranger Things, what was it, in season 2, there's this one episode where Eleven's off in New York doing a thing. Does it really connect to the story? Kinda, but mostly it's just why are we here? Can we please get back to the story that we want to see?
But it still felt
Yeah.
like Stranger Things, though. That's the thing. This didn't feel like what we had. Like it should have just been. It was a whole new crew. It was a whole different thing. This was not ever a Book of Boba Fett episode. This was
No,
never a Book of Boba Fett episode.
it is
They
not
threw
at
the title
all.
card in there. That is it. So
Now, I will say that I do think they dropped some information that we will end up using in Book of Boba Fett, which we'll get to because that's later on once we get back into Tatooine. But yeah, this episode is not needed at all. In fact, the only episode so far that you need to see of Book of Boba Fett is 4. That's really the only episode. It sums up everything else and gets you exactly where you need to be.
that's the thing. Okay, we should really talk about like why the story
What episode
isn't necessary. Is because all we needed from Din was for them to find him in a situation and pick him up and carry him along for the ride. Back to this. That we didn't need his story right now. It is not part of this story. He is like, it's like Scooby-Doo and the gang with special guests Batman and Robin. We don't need to know what they're doing after. They're just there because they just join along in the adventure and then they leave and they go do back to their thing. Okay, that's what this should have been. It should have been cool moment with Din, hook up with Boba Fett and Fennec, everything else on Tatooine. See you later, and if they need to stick him around for the end episodes, like the back half, so 5, 6, 7, so be it. That's what they should have done here. But it just goes back to plans. They didn't have proper plans. And they didn't even have enough in this episode. This episode's like the second longest of the supposed Book of Boba Fett, and it was padded with so much walking around. I'm walking to this. I'm walking to that. I'm on the elevator so that an alien guy can look at me and then look away. Or we can do I have to go to the airport because I don't have a ship, and we have to show him in the ship with the kid. Why is that there? There's so many things in this that don't need to be there for the sake of for runtime. When streaming shouldn't have cares about. There shouldn't be padding in streaming because nobody's telling you how long an episode has to be.
There is a lot of unnecessary stuff done. Like I said, there's a lot of exposition, a lot of unnecessary shipbuilding. I do want to get to some of the exposition because this was, again, while it's exposition heavy, in my opinion, I think it was well done. And I think it's also because we are kind of reuniting back with the armorer and his sort of little cadre. We're seeing some fallout. There's some interaction. Acknowledgement of help back and forth. Our giant Paz Vizsla, who becomes a bit more of a competitor later on. And the armor's an interesting character. Like seeing this. I like seeing the world. While there is a bit of walking around, at least they are using the technology in an interesting way. And for Lucas, that was always one big thing, is he wanted the technology to push and drive things forward, which I think something in the prequel series is something that wasn't really focused and used on. I mean, as goofy as some of the CGI in Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones may look for now, and how eye lines didn't always necessarily match up, those were the beginnings of CGI integration in with film on a large scale that allows us to do all the giant, awesome Marvel stuff that we see and love now. So, there was contributions in with this. So I'm kind of excited in that sense of where this volume and stagecraft technology is going to take. But for our exposition, we get a bit of the Darksaber. We get a bit of the history of Mandalore. We get to see our first kind of glimpse at Mandalore live action and a shot of the Night of 1,000 Tears, or the Purge, and that this particular sect, the Children of the Watch, were off on the moon of Concordia, which allowed them to survive and sort of get away from the brunt of the damage. And to me, this has some interesting kind of effects here. One, we kind of get the tie into the Darksaber. We get the story how the legend is. If you get it without winning it, it's going to bring destruction. And then we get, Bo-Katan, she was just given it. She went in with her blood, and the purge happened, and everything got lost. So we are starting to see how I think they're going to use Din as the new Mandalorian kind of savior. We get a mention of the mythosaur, who's going to usher in a new era for Mandalore. By the end, because of course he's taken off his mask, the only way to do it, you got to go back to Mandalore, go to Living Springs in the mines. So now we're getting, at least through this, we get history, we get a drive for him. And we get some actual story of a challenge for even using the Darksaber. He's fighting it. He can't wield it. It's heavier the longer that you use it, which we've already seen. So now he is going to have to learn how to let go. He's going to have to get his own Jedi training. And perhaps that's what we get our connection back to Grogu later on. See, giant exposition bit to talk about exposition.
Yeah, I mean, look, the parts, like, people, you want to act like I don't know what happened in this episode.
No, I just like talking.
No, not
about
you. No, I'm looking at the chat, and I'm like, no, I know that stuff was said. You know what I mean? Like, I get the exposition. It's all great for the Mandalorian. It's all great for, like, stuff for him. A whole bunch of things are coming, folks. Look for it in about 9-10 months to all pay off. I'm looking for stuff to pay off now. I mean, call me crazy, but I don't think that there's going to be a Book of Boba Fett episode jammed into the Mandalorian season 3. Okay.
I think that's fair.
But I mean, when I talk about the like that, it's there's subtleties, but there's also. But it was cool seeing them back. I did like the visuals of all of that, but I still couldn't help but thinking sharper, faster editing, pacing wise.
Sure.
It just felt like they were trying to make the episode long, not because there was any kind of, because they're free of constraints, because they wanted to make people feel like they were getting more. But I also agree that showing the technology, showing it off, is great. In this episode, there's a lot of really cool stuff to look at. The fight, the fact that they're fighting underneath all this stuff is really, really cool. It's nice exposition for people who don't know the Mandalorian stuff, that haven't watched Clone Wars or Rebels or any of it, or haven't read any of the books. It's a nice little quick. We all got, blown up by the Empire, and that was really cool, seeing it, I guess live action, I liked all of that. I liked that the consequences for taking off the helmet. I like how they send him on his way, and I'm like, that's all great. And if we were going to tune in next week to get those answers, that'd be great. That'd be even better. That would be even better. But instead, they're going to just drop us into Din Djarin's going to walk around and be a pimp in front of old man Boba Fett.
Oh, God, no.
Like, I am hopeful, though. I mean, going into next week, because at least Din will be there. Or will he? Who knows? Maybe next week it'll just be Boba Fett and the Vespa gang, having to get, him having to get them back into the fold, more proper, give them some training or something, so that we get ready for the fight, so that Din doesn't actually show up until like episode 7.
Sure.
Watch that be a possibility. Oh, maybe we'll get some Rancor training, like riding next week. But
God.
but
You had to bring that up, didn't you?
like,
God.
but that's all that stuff was great. Then we get to Tatooine, right? So we might as well get to that. Let's
Yeah,
get to,
yeah.
let's get to Tatooine.
Let's move on. I do want to make one little mention back here in the chat. Dun, 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 where did I see? Silvo, Boba and Luke kind of overtook Mando last season for a bit too.
No,
I mean,
I disagree.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but we did have the great Boba Fett crossover, but it made sense and the two stories integrated and then went off. The problem we're saying here is yeah, kind of like all it does is make us go, why didn't we have Mandalorian season 3 now and then Book of Boba Fett later? Instead, you're still teasing us with, no, we don't have Mandalorian now. Here's a taste, and you still have to wait. We'll rip out your heart and your expectations and let them out to dry. Anyway, that's my response on that one. So, no, I don't mind a focus being taken. I mean, kind of do, but if it's at least done naturally where it seems these stories intersect, that's perfect. It's different from that going back. And if in the middle of Mandalorian last season, we had, say, episode 1 of Book of Boba Fett, I would be very confused.
I mean, this episode could have started with him getting off the ship onto Tatooine.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's boom. That's where we get off to the races and we join the Book of Boba Fett. But no.
It's just a tease. We don't like being teased. That's all. Okay, so yeah, let's get to Tatooine and Pelimato and our just flurry of Easter eggs, more than we ever could have wanted, and a Naboo and one starfighter. So go ahead. Go, Rob.
I what about the little robot that was like the BD robot from
the
Jedi
Star
Fallen
Tours
Order?
robot that we keep showing up. You got to have the product placement, right?
Oh, I was thinking Jedi Fallen Order, the video game. I don't know that.
Oh, okay.
He's the robot that Cal has. The exact same kind. I thought that was a cool. I was more excited for that than the prequel stuff. I was like, oh, cool. Wait, does this mean we could get? Because I think a lot of people want to see that video game character played by the dude from Shameless in the Star Wars universe. I think we will see it. And I thought, ooh, I felt like them making that robot present was kind of a little like maybe.
Okay.
But the Starfighter was really cool. I still find it like, are they saying that that's the one that he? I need to know what ship this is. Was because I know it's like they said it's the one that was made for, or the Queen designed it, right?
Right. No, I don't know if they're saying this was specifically the fighter that that young wizard himself, Anakin, was flying. There was a sort of a fleet of those. I think it's that type. So I think it's just a callback to the type. On the other hand, considering that we've also seen part of his pod racer flying around with Cobb Vanth and a few other little things popping up, would not be surprised me if he actually saw, I said wizard when I landed because it's written underneath right here. It says wizard.
Everybody keeps talking about saying wizard now, and that took me back to. I mean, those were the fun things to look at. I mean, look, the Phantom Menace was a long time ago. Like a long time. I feel like the Phantom Menace actually is longer in the past than the actual original trilogy at this point. Like, I feel like it's just so far removed. It's like when you see these little callbacks, you don't get filled with that kind of ire anymore. And if you do, you really got to get a life. I mean, if it's the first time that you're seeing the Phantom Menace and you just saw the trilogy and you waited, then I can understand being disappointed if you're brand new to the Phantom Menace and the others. But seeing that stuff, it was nice. It was nice, and it even toned down. What's her name? See,
Pelly.
yeah, she is burned into your memory. I am
Oh,
thankfully able to. It's not there. I already don't remember. I'm not.
I had to write it
I know
down
it's
because
Amy
I always forget her
Sedaris.
name.
It's like there's some. I sometimes purposely do that. I think just forget people like permanently, so that even though like I hear their name, I can instantly forget 2 seconds later.
Sure.
And as annoying as what that character is, and we joked about her being in your nightmares. Um, honestly, because because this still fit into the world of the Mandalorian and it was still progression and it was the next step, and whether the ship is great or not, it still felt good in a way to be there.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
less annoying
I
because
agree.
I had been enjoying this and not the other. And so I was
I
sitting there
completely
putting up
agree.
with a character for way longer than I usually like, and I didn't really care because the rest of the situation was interesting. What's the ship going to be like? Oh, the Jawas are here. Like all these little things, all
They're
these little
furry.
details that they had already built up. That if okay, oh yeah, okay, I, that me like that. See, that's one of those things that shows that this episode is not perfect because Amy Sedaris decided to, and I bet you she ad libbed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I bet you she ad libbed, and somebody let her keep that in. Of now, I'm going to be thinking about a horribly. I'm sorry, in that makeup, Amy Sedaris is like the troll under the bridge, and a Jawa that apparently have. I'm now imagining relations between a Jawa and her, and I don't like that at all.
Yeah. Fangirling and loving it. I like Pelly, but she's been trying to get the image of her dating a Jawa out of her head for 2 days now. Eric wants to see a Jawa naked. I know they said it out there. They put out the furry thing, and now it's in everyone's head. Thank you guys so much. And I agree. That was probably completely an ad lib, and someone great throw that in. And it was only afterwards that some executives were going like, "Oh, what did we do?"
This also though was a great place to the way that they show ships and flying around. I think they've improved that so much. Like when we see him taking off and flying around, that's it may seem kind of negligible, especially since we're on Tatooine. We had all the pod racing, and the pod racing sequence is still considered, to be so groundbreaking, and it was for the time. It's dated now a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, but not too bad. But you get to the way that they show how they've done all this again, showing how far they've gotten in technology to really believe that you're seeing something that's not there. Was fantastic. I really love that those shots of him first taking off. It just feels like it's really happening.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed all that stuff, whether or not it's practical or not, which it's not. It's the first thing I was talking about. I was agreeing with you about like when you commented about how you're a bounty hunter. Where are you going to put the bounties? Just going to drag them like fish outside the window, like hanging, like
Yeah.
having them on a line.
Yeah, this is an awesome ship, folks, and I love the speed, and I love that he falls in love with it, and there's so much very cool stuff about it. My only problem with it is like he's a bounty hunter. I mean, look, there's a little Grogu pod now, apparently, because she put out where the astromech droid normally goes. But also, he kind of lives in the Razorback. Also, I mean, you gotta take cargo and stretch. I mean, the starfighters. Look, I'm just saying is that Luke, after a while in that X-wing, is not a pleasant guy, and he doesn't really have to bring anyone with him. So this is going to be a good thing for Din, or it's just meant to be exploded at the beginning of next season anyway, in some killer attempt, and then he'll get a new Razor Crest.
Or Boba Fett gives him Slave One.
It's a stupid ship design. It's a stupid ship design. I
What?
don't.
Slave One?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hate that. It's just you can't even fly out of a hangar in that thing and see. It's not a.
Yeah, it's not practical.
Yeah, I'm
No,
sorry.
it's not. It's not practical. I
that's
still
just
love it. I don't know. I love it because it's like the car that Homer Simpson made.
that's true.
It's just it's for that person. It's like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter if it really works. It works for that person, so good for them. You know, like.
Oh no, and it is the perfect Boba Fett. It is imposing. It is scary. It's even got its own kind of deep, scary engine sound. It's like when you hear that coming, you know it's the Slave One. You know that it's Boba Fett coming at you. I agree. I just think personally, I like Mando having his own different type of ship because
he needs a better ship than this, though. Still, yeah, and not the Razor Crest, because the Razor Crest. It's like it's the Volvo of Star Wars vehicles, right? It's a big box, right? And it takes a lot of damage like a Volvo and still kept going.
Yeah. So we did get we were talking about the flying sequences. I think that's one thing that was also very cool. There was a lot of the right stuff feel in this too, especially when he took off to head off into atmosphere and see what it is. A lot of the shots, a lot of the feel, and I think that's something that Bryce Dallas Howard brings with her, is really an appreciation a lot of older films and certain things you can see with a lot of the camera work. There's a lot of the spinning camera references like we had in Phantom Menace when Anakin was piloting around that a few people have called back on. I like the right stuff. Meanwhile, we also have Beggar's Canyon we get to see. We get to see what a Womp Rat looks like. So that was kind of cool. I mean, again, we're thrown with a lot of these fun stuff. Unfortunately, but this is my little point of criticism, and what I think agree was a really fun and cool sequence is there's like one X-Wing pilot for the entire Outer Rim. Is that what we're basically trying to say? There's one guy. It's this guy. He's got a couple of people with him, and he's everywhere. Now, this is where I think we might get some reference back. I think Jawa took an engine part out of one of those Pike Spice Runners. And Pelly mentioned something about, since they've come in, law enforcement won't go up against him. Everybody's staying out of the way. And then we get our X-Wing pilot that has the Din Djarin connection. I think maybe this might be the one thing that does end up looping back around, is that'll be the deal with the New Republic is, look, Bubba will watch Tatooine. You guys will have a thing out here. There's going to be crime, but he'll make sure that it's handled and it doesn't get out of hand, And that'll be the kind of deal. It's going to be my guess. This is going to be another one of those New Republic feathers and Mando's hat, because he'll help negotiate or make the connection. That is my only speculation that I can bring up out of this. And I really hope they do that, because otherwise this really is a completely wasted scene. And why are these X-Wings? Are they watching all of the flights? All of the ships? Yeah, Din should not have done the stupid let's fly around the one passenger ship carrier and be all cool scene, but I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was really felt like tacked on and didn't need to, like it could have been done better. It just should have been written better.
Sure.
It felt like a really there's the one, he's like the one guy in that whole sector that I don't know, but all in all, I mean, it is a really good episode of The Mandalorian. Despite, I come at it all the time. I'd be completely honest, right? That's why I have to talk about what I felt about some of the pacing issues and things like that. And our ire for the whole fact that this is just a reminder of how good we're probably going to have it in about 9 or 10 months. It doesn't make it any easier for us that are going to be going back to this week to week, but it does affect how I feel going forward of what I'm going to be watching. And I'm hoping that at very least that future Disney Star Wars on Disney Plus will be easy to spot what I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like what I'm going to watch or not. I really want to, I would really like them to frame things uh, in a way going forward of, is this going to be for a 5-year-old? Is this going to be for everyone? Or is this going to be for, like, it's never going to be just for the fans. So whatever kind of medium level we can get to, which is what I consider the Mandalorian, which is like basically if we only get this, if the Mandalorian is the only good thing that comes out of it, it's still, it's still like that's all I ask. I don't ask for a lot. I really don't. I don't have like a big dog in this hunt like it sounds like I do. I just get passionate talking about it in the moment most of the time. Like just being annoyed with something that could have been better. Because this isn't really fanboying to me. I'm looking at like the Book of Boba Fett like I would anything else. And if it was good, I would say it's good. Now it is my opinion, but I mean, like I don't go off on tangents like and go after a show unless I'm really sure that something's off. And so we get this fantastic episode that just again, I beating the dead horse that is the Book of Boba Fett already. The body's not even like he's not even fully dead, and we're just hitting him still. It's the end of it's RoboCop getting shot up at the beginning. We just keep going, man. It's like just keep shooting. So I don't. Again, this episode taught us a lot. And there's a lot of things to be thinking about for the future of Disney Plus Star Wars by watching this. Like and I think that they do pay attention to a lot of how these things are perceived, and hopefully they won't do this again.
Mm-hmm.
Because as much as I liked seeing this, I could have done without it until it was necessary.
No, I think that's a fair statement. Eric Scott in the chat mentioning the rod from the Spice Runners. That was the same kind of rod used to stop the trash compactor in A New Hope. Thought that was an awesome Easter egg. I thought that looked familiar. Thank you, Eric, for bringing that up. That was awesome. Yeah, that's. I don't know. I think that is ultimately really is the frustration because while there has been a little bit of variety in with the Marvel products, I think there has been a certain consistency at least. And I think even with the last ones, I've gotten even kind of more excited about. Unfortunately, what this does for my expectations for future Star Wars shows is it seriously kind of undercuts them. Do I know the quality? As I may have some issues here and there, and if you've watched any of our reviews for Mandalorian, yeah, I have issues and stuff with that show. Sadly, or hopefully, what this episode does is made me go, I will never say anything bad about Mandalorian again. Everything you do is awesome, because it just gave me the feeling that I've been really wanting to get from this series going forward. And I don't care about going back to Boba Fett's story. Please wrap it up, be done. Now all it is I just want to get back to Din Djarin's. I want to see where he's going to go. Are you going to take half of next episode as he goes to Grogu to deliver the little thing, the little gift for him, which is like, I don't know, a mail shirt, little tiny helmet for him, something like that. Would I be fine with that? In a way, yes, because that's the story I'd rather see. But then I'm like, oh, wait, no, we got to wrap up Boba Fett. There's only 2 episodes left. It's just going to be a fight, folks. It's just going to be a big fight. That's what I'm assuming. Half of it's next week is going to be getting Grogu, maybe learning something about the Darksaber, an idea, something, and then coming back, the plan and setup for the final battle. And then the episode will have our final battle against the Pikes, which I don't know what it's going to look like because we actually haven't fought the Pikes at all. So I don't know what the expectation on that is. Eric Scott, like when you're going through the Tatooine desert, that first drop of water in your tongue is the best water you've ever had. But yes, Rich Room, inconsistent quality for Book of Boba Fett has him kind of worried for Ahsoka, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the Acolyte. Yeah, like I said, it's just, I don't know what to expect. And look, folks, I love chat with Rob here. I love having Don. I love having everybody when we have our big discussions. Obviously, everyone in the chat, Rich, Eric, Silva, all of you guys that come in fangirling, love having you here, and I love the discussions. Do I want to spend 6 weeks ranting every Thursday night on the quality of an episode? No. I can tweet something and one bad thing, let you all know, and save everybody the time. It's less fun to do that. Even though apparently we've spent almost an hour doing it tonight.
Well, again, though, I feel like we were forced to almost be beating a dead horse a lot because it's the same. It's just, the same stuff. Nothing's really changed. We just got, again, like we were preempted with a better show. Like we were getting ready for something that was probably going to be And when we were like, oh, and then it's over. And then we were like, oh yeah. When does the Mandalorian come back?
You should not have us doing that in the middle of your show. You should not have us wanting the next show and to be done with this one. Though, look, if you're thinking different and you're very excited to get back to Boba Fett and have been enjoying the story that it's been telling, that's awesome. Seriously, I wish I was you. And I don't mean that from a condescending standpoint in any way.
Yep.
I really want to. I spend weeks. I did posters for this show that I know the show. Bill Casey, yes, Peacemaker is pretty good. Rob and I have debated whether or not we should just turn this into a Peacemaker discussion. I haven't seen this week's episode. I like what they're doing with it. I love the bit they've done with Vigilante, which is surprised and I'm enjoying.
Yep.
Yeah, up and down series. Little slow start for me, little hard on the initial start. But I've enjoyed it. So there, quick little Peacemaker discussion for you. Rob, your brief thoughts on Peacemaker?
Better than like this and more we'll be discussing on Saturday.
Ooh, no, but that's a perfect transition. Take it.
So if you guys were tired of us complaining about the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian and why the Mandalorian isn't the Book of Boba Fett, Saturday nights, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on my channel, Smirking Reviews, you can join me and him. I don't do a lot of pointing in my life. This gentleman over here and Mark from Enchantment of Eternity and Alyssa Jean from Alyssa Jean Reviews. And if he's back from the Outer Rim, Don Willie will be joining me on my channel as we discuss a whole bunch of pop culture from 2021 that we didn't get to talk about on our respective channels, at least not all of them. We got Spider-Man. We're going to be talking. We got Matrix. We got Yellow Jackets. We got Dope Sick. We got Midnight Matt. We get a ton of stuff to talk about. Eternals. All these things that we didn't get to talk about. Wheel of Time. I didn't do a final episode of that. So we're going to be talking about pop culture from 2021, the good, the bad, and I gave everybody a special project, a special question to try to pull the absolute nugget, which is what is your absolute favorite product produced with the Marvel logo on it? And that could be a movie, a film, a TV, or a film, a TV show, a single episode of TV, or a video game. which is like, what is the thing that you love most from Marvel? And this was not easy to come up with in my own head. There's a lot of different things and ways to take things, and a lot of different shows and things to pull from. So this is not an easy question I've posed to the panel. And if it, like, even if it's not like 100%, the answers are going to be interesting at the very least. So on my channel, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, Saturday night, come over there and watch us all talk pop culture.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. That question of yours has been sort of racking around a bit in my mind because, when you have a bit of history with the product, there's a lot of access points to go with. So I'm kind of curious about jumping in and hearing where everybody else has with that as well. So yeah, that's going to be Saturday night, 8 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, over on Smirking Reviews. Should be a blast. We'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Want to be sure to say thank you so much to Bill Casey jumping in here at the last few minutes. Eric Scott with us. The Rich Room, fangirling and loving it. Jorge's in here as well. I know we're going back. Mercenary X84. I know I saw your name. There you are in the chat. Silva Surfa, always here with us. I don't want to miss everyone. You guys have had an awesome little chat. Lindsay also in here with the chat. Thank you, everybody, for joining us live. Everyone join us in the archive. Really appreciate you checking this out. We're looking forward to, I don't know what to talk about for next week. Honestly, I have no expectations at this point, but hopefully it won't just be a rant. Hopefully we'll have some more fun things to say, or at least an idea of maybe they'll tell us when Mandalorian season 3 is actually going to drop.
I think that should be a challenge then that we put to ourselves is whatever we talk about next week.
Okay.
We don't repeat, like if it comes to going down that same road, let's just not, and only talk about anything new to say.
Okay.
That would be an interesting challenge because it's going to be hard, folks. It's going to be really hard to it's potentially really hard to pull the peanuts out of that pile of poop.
Yeah. Eric, that would be 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Pacific on Saturday night. I think if I'm reading your question right. I've got to work backwards to where I am and then build forwards for me to remember.
We're on different planes of existence here.
Hopefully it will be more of a positive conversation next week. I like the idea there, Rob. I think that's something to go with. It's
if we can't say, because I could have said if we can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So it's going to be an hour and 15 minutes of Don, D, and myself just looking at each other, reading each other's minds.
We'll all be rushing to say the one bad thing first, and then nobody else can say that. So that's really cool. It's just going to be an initial jump of conversation and then a sort out kind of quiet, uncomfortable stare for the rest of the show. It'll be an interesting one.
Let's just do chores in the background.
All right. I think that's fine. We need to go. Thank you, everyone, so much. Have a great evening, and we'll hopefully see you on Saturday and then catch you back here